I forgot one of the things that that I feel like I'm always a broken record at these launches, because I'm always dumbfounded by how, despite our lack of intention with it, every journal seems to somehow in the process ends up feeling kind of themed. One of the people I was just chatting with Facebook about the submissions, they were asking, well, is there a theme? And we don't tend to have a theme, but it always feels like each issue feels like it comes out with some kind of thematic thing. One of the things that we were talking about in the selection process, we were talking, and when I was writing, I wrote a little bit about this in the intro, about how for some reason a lot of these poems and poets are kind of addressing different socio-cultural issues from the margins. And so one of the quotes that I thought was interesting that I put in the introduction is one of my favorite Bell Hooks pieces is Choosing the Margins. And so just real quick, I think this kind of adds to, or is kind of is colored by what Cindy just read, which is, she says about the idea of kind of addressing hegemony, or kind of like the dominant narrative from the outside is the best way to attack it instead of trying to attack it from within. She says, historically, a lot of the publishing apparatuses and canon-making houses have been very closed and white supremacist and Eurocentric and misogynistic and heterocentric, etc., in their focus and aesthetic. This work is actively reframing and reinvigorating publishing and literature. And so I thought that was interesting, particularly in light of what Cindy had read. And so it just really, for some reason, it just interests me how that happens. I'm not sure if it's because we are sitting there in dialogue as editors and are interested in a certain thing, or if it's just something is happening in the zeitgeist that folks are interested in when it comes to either Austin or the other folks that are submitting. Anyways, also, one of the things I always get excited to get up here and introduce folks, and I forget to say that we're funded by the City of Austin. It says Journal is funded and supported in part by the Cultural Arts Division, the City of Austin Economic Development Department. And without them, we would not be able to print this beautiful journal and have folks come here and do all the things. And so we very much appreciate the support of Austin. So Ann Phillips is our next reader, and it was interesting because I wasn't sure, I was on pins and needles if she was going to be able to make it. And so I'm glad that she was here. And she has this real great poem that you'll hear in a second called The Disciple that we had a lot of conversation about when we were meeting at our little coffee shop, to select poems. And so here's Ann's bio, and then we'll have her come up here and read a few poems as well. Ann taught writing and literature at the University of Southern Maine and has worked as a psychotherapist, salmon fisherman, reptile house guide. Her poetry appears or is forthcoming in Green Mountain Review, The Sow's Ear, Gargoyle, Midwest Quarterly, Big Muddy, Little Patuxent, I always can't say that one. Patuxent, yeah, thank you. Review, we'll edit that out on YouTube. The Humanistic Psychologist, and elsewhere. Her poetry collection, A Language the Land is Inviting, from World Tech Editions, will be published in 2016. So without further ado, here's
I grew up in Missouri, but now I live 1,500 miles away in Maryland, so it's just a great delight that I happen to be scheduled to be in Austin today. So wonderful. For the third poem I'll read is The Disciple. The first poem is an elegy to Stephen, who died this past March at the age of 26. It's a poem about addiction, about rehab, about this desperate struggle for recovery, about the deaths, so many deaths from overdoses, especially after someone's been clean for a period of time and then uses again. Elegy for Stephen. I'm your favorite vein. I'm the lies you told, the horse you rode hard, and dark valleys, the 28 locked days and 28 nights washed in fear. I am your mouth opening for the bitter pill. I am disbelief. I am your death wish distraction. 80 years worth of heartbeats spent fast. I am just one night, the short bed where you can't sleep. I am resignation. I'm the trickster. You're one life in a time of war. I am a time of war. I'm your pixie daughter, wearing you forever on my neck. The barrels of Maxwell House you bought for home group. 150 days itching bad. I'm the homeless man you taught to read. The Red Sox cap you'd never lose. The house bathrooms you cleaned with Pine Sol. The guys you dragged to meetings. The sober girls who called you angel. The door you broke down to save Irene. I'm your laughter spraying over Pocasset Sound. I'm the last moment that you believed. I have an Austen poem about an angel and a young woman called The Angel Visits Ginny Marie, and this is forthcoming in Sauzier Poetry Review. This is one rendering of the Annunciation. He was on the log bench when I went out to see if anything was left of the garden. Scraggly black beard, dusty t-shirt and jeans, saying, "Virginia, Virginia," what no one but my dead mother calls me. It was a Texas hellfire summer. The cedars shrunk into closed umbrellas, lizards too limp to defend their patch, the live oaks dropping leaves. I don't want kids, I told him. I never liked kids, I told him. They're trouble. I was trouble. The rent money left with the man I kicked out last Sunday. You have the wrong girl. I'm on the pill anyhow. He didn't choose this job either, he said. He said it has to be now. Some things are random, but some aren't, and this isn't. It doesn't matter if I believe him. I put the peppers in too late. The dog's asleep in a dry hole. The cauliflower might make it, but hornworm got the tomatoes. And me not knowing what to do with a baby boy, I go to work and leave him in his box. The man hauled himself up, brushed the dust from his knees, turned back toward Republic of Texas Highway. Hold on to your dignity when he was gone. I'm especially glad to be here to reading The Disciple and meeting the editors who chose this odd poem. These are people who obviously have been reading Sufi teaching stories and Buddhist koans in their spare time. And because this poem, The Disciple, refers to teaching Sufi stories, including one story of a king and 2 loaves of bread. And you'll hear several references also to Hafiz, the 14th century Persian poet. I will count the veins on the yellowing hickory leaves, 31. On the next leaf, 28, then 17. The leaves are falling sideways. I will hear only stories I can understand. Given a choice between loaves, I take the heavy one. When it is hot, I will be hot Buddha. I will carry the lame man on my back to the feast and hold the blind man by the hand. I am only deaf, and they know the way. I will think with my body. If I meet the Buddha on the road, I will be lost. I will see the red bird without words. When it is cold, I will be cold Buddha. When the residue from the princess's unguents floats down the river tidally wrapped, I may mistake it for halva. Hafiz and I will be holes in a flute. When I die, I will fall over everything like lily dust. Thank you.